In Chapter 2, we will cover the fundamentals of variables in PHP. A variable is a container for data. The data is stored in a variable so that you can use it later within the program. You store data in a variable by assigning a value to the variable. There are many ways to use data in a variable. It can be changed, printed to the browser, saved to a database, emailed, and so on. Visit the link at the bottom of the slide for more information. Variables are flexible in that you can store data in a variable, you can read data from a variable, you can change the data in a variable, and you can do this over and over. Variables are temporary in that they only exist and contain a value while the PHP script is running. Once the code finishes, the variable no longer exists. Variable names must follow these rules. It must start with a $sign. When you see a $sign in PHP, you know that's a variable. After the $sign, there must be a letter or an underscore. A number cannot follow the $sign. The rest of the name can be any combination of letters, numbers, and underscores. A variable name cannot contain spaces, and a variable name must be unique. You cannot have more than one variable with the same name. And variable names are case sensitive. A variable name that starts with an uppercase letter is not the same as a variable with the same name but starts with a lowercase letter. So here are some examples of valid and invalid variable names. The valid variable names follow the rules we discussed previously. Conversely, the invalid ones do not, for the reasons specified. Your code will only run with valid variable names. So now is a good time to tell you about a tool that could help when coding PHP. It's called PHP Fiddle. It's a tool that allows you to run and test pieces of PHP code. There are many of these available on the web. PHP Fiddle is one of the most popular for testing PHP code. I'm going to use this in class to try different pieces of code. To use the tool, you go to phpfiddle.org, select the Codespace tab, enter the PHP code between the PHP tags, press the Run button, and the results will display on the Window tab. So here's a chance to use PHP Fiddle. Copy the first valid variable called $first_name to the PHP Fiddle code space. And press the Run button. You should see a blank screen on the Window tab. This means that the variable name did not generate an error. If it would have, you would see the error message on the Window tab. In this case, all we're doing is declaring a variable, and since that doesn't create any results, you don't see anything on the Window tab. Try a few of the other valid variables. None of these should generate an error. Now try the first invalid variable called $first_name. When you press the Run button, you should see an error message in the Window tab. Getting an error message tells us that there is something wrong with our code. In this case, the variable name contains a space which is not allowed. Try a few of the other invalid variables. They all generate errors. So here are some recommendations when creating variables. Always use lowercase in variable names. Remember that variable names are case sensitive. It will get confusing if you use some with lowercase, some with uppercase, and some with mixed case. There are some predefined PHP variables that use uppercase. These are built into PHP, and when using them you don't have a choice. But when you do have a choice, like when you create the variable, use lowercase. Use descriptive names. The variable name should represent the data that will be stored in it. Names that match the data make the program much easier to read. Use comments to describe the variable and its purpose, and be consistent. Stick with whatever you choose. If you need additional information, remember to visit the link on the previous slide. Predefined variables are created automatically in PHP. For example, $_server. Notice that this variable name is in uppercase. Since this is one created by PHP, you don't have a choice about which case to use. Whenever you use this variable, it has to be in uppercase. There are several other predefined variables that we will discuss later. There are two types of numbers, integers and floating points. Floating points are also known as floats or doubles. Integers are whole numbers. They can be positive or negative. Floating points are numbers that contain a decimal point. Visit the link at the bottom of the slide for more information. So here are some examples of valid numbers and invalid numbers. Valid numbers contain only digits either with or without a decimal point and can be negative. Invalid numbers contain non-digit characters or multiple decimal points. A string is text of any characters between quotes, either single or double quotes. A string can contain letters, numbers, symbols, punctuations, spaces, and other variables. All of the examples on the right of the slide are considered to be valid strings. You create an empty string by two single quotes or two double quotes with nothing in between. Visit the link at the bottom of the slide for more information. Since quotes are used to create a string, how would you include a quote inside a string? But to do this, you have to escape any quotes inside a string. Use the backslash to escape quotes inside a string, as in the first example. If you use double quotes to create the string, then every double quote inside the string has to be escaped. This tells PHP to treat the double quotes inside the string as double quote characters and not as the start or the end of the string. This goes the same for single quotes. Another option is to use different quotes, as in the second example on the slide. If you need to include double quotes inside the string, then use single quotes to create the string. And if you need to include single quotes inside the string, then use double quotes to create the string. That way PHP knows where the string starts and ends, and it knows that the other type of quote should be treated as regular characters within the string. An array is a variable that can contain multiple values. This is opposed to numbers and strings that can only contain a single value. Think of an array as a list or a table containing multiple values. The values inside the array can be numbers or strings or arrays. Keys are used as a way of accessing the values in the array. Indexed arrays use numeric keys, and associative arrays use string keys. Either way, you end up with a key value pair. The key is used to access its associated value. Visit the link at the bottom of the slide for more information. So here are some common terms pertaining to arrays. The key is the identifier that references the value in the array. The key is what you use to access a value in an array. An index array is an array that uses numbers for the key. An associative array is an array that uses strings for the key. A multi-dimensional array is an array that contains other arrays. Each value in the array is an array. And scalar is a variable that contains a single value like a number or a string. To store a value in a variable, you assign the value to the variable using the equal sign. The variable name goes on the left and the value goes on the right. So you assign the value on the right to the variable on the left. For example, the variable number is assigned a value of 1, and the variable floating number is assigned the value of 1.2, and so on. Visit the link at the bottom of the slide for more information. Now you try to assign a value to a variable using PHP Fiddle. You can try one at a time or all at once. You shouldn't see any results in the Window tab unless there's an error. Assigning a value to a variable does not create any output. Use the print function to display the value stored inside the variable. You can display just the variable, or you can display the variable as part of a message, as in the example on the slide. The value stored in the variable will be displayed in place of the variable name. The print function knows that you want to display the value instead of the variable name. Now we will display the values stored inside of variables using the print function. First, we assign values to 3 variables. Then we print the values stored in the variables. As a side note, the print function would print everything on one line, making the display very hard to read. To make it easier to read, we include an HTML break tag. This will start a new line after each print. Remember that the print function sends text and HTML to the browser, so we can include the break tag to display each print function on a new line. The dot is used for concatenation, in other words, to join information together. In this case, we are saying display the variable's value and then display a break tag. Finally, we include the variables inside a text string and display the variable's value and the rest of the text string all at once. Again, we include the break tag so each print statement is displayed on a new line. Instead of concatenating the break tag, just include it inside the string. Script 2.3 in the textbook is another example of printing variables. You could follow the instructions to create the .php file and upload to your server, or you could use PHP Fiddle to quickly test the PHP script code. In this case, the print statement includes variables, text, and HTML. Remember that strings in PHP can be created using single quotes or double quotes. Depending on the type of quotes that you use, you could end up with different results. Text inside single quote strings are treated as literals. So you'll see exactly what's inside the string. Variables are not substituted. Text inside double quote strings are extrapolated, so the variable names are replaced with their values. For example, look at the code for variables name1 and name2 on the slide. The name1 variable is created using single quotes, and the name2 variable is created using double quotes. You see in the output on the right that when name1 is displayed, you see exactly what is in the string. It is treated literally, and the variables are not substituted. And when name2 is displayed, you see the values assigned to the variables. The variables are replaced with their values. Script 2.4 in the textbook is an example of using single and double quotes. You could follow the instructions to create the .php file and upload to your server, or you could use PHP Fiddle to quickly test the PHP script code. The output from this example shows that single quotes are treated literally and double quotes are substituted. To avoid confusion about which quotes to use, one suggestion is to always use double quotes, unless you get in the situation where double quotes won't work and you have to use single quotes.